Man, it's cold in here for some reason. But anyway, welcome back to Tap Theory, and today I want to talk to you about a pentatonics concept that I like to use called wall method. Okay, so what is wall method? You know, I say that it's a pentatonic concept, and basically what it is a way to organize and extract patterns from your pentatonic scales. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the geometric shape of each form on the neck and look at an interesting way to divide it into smaller chunks and use those smaller chunks to come up with patterns for chords and cool lines. So let's work primarily today out of form 1, and I'm going to do it right on the beginning of the second quadrant. For me, that is a B, right there. Everything that we look at in form 1 is applicable to all the forms, and there's going to be all of this stuff laid out pretty well and visually and talked through on the exercises that go along with this video. So when you look at a pentatonic scale, such as form 1, right? You've got a distance of 3 notes, then 2 notes, 2 notes again, 2 notes again, and then 3 notes again. And a whole bunch of empty space in between, right? Well, that empty space is going to be used as our divider. So, all of this stuff right there is going to divide up these notes, what I call the nut side wall, which is the back end of the form, and the bridge side wall, which is the front end of the form. So if we're looking at it like this, the nut side wall of form 1 is going to look like this. And the bridge side wall looks like this. So this seems kind of confusing. Why would we do this? Well, it opens up a lot of really neat possibilities, right? So the first one that I like to do a lot is take chords out of this. And the way you start to do this is you pick a pattern of like a minimum of 3 notes. Bridge, nut, nut. Or nut, bridge, nut. Or bridge, nut, bridge. Or nut, bridge, bridge. And you basically pick notes out of each wall, right? So if I did bridge, nut, nut in form 1, bridge, bridge wall, nut wall, nut wall. And I can take that shape, bridge wall, nut wall, nut wall, bridge wall, nut wall, nut wall, and move that through each one of my shapes, right? If I went into form 2 and did the exact same thing, form 2 is going to be right here. And I went bridge, nut, nut. I've got all these cool shapes, and the neat thing about this is that you can take the same pattern and you can apply it all over the pentatonic scale in any form. Every one of these chords that you pull from the wall method is going to imply the chord that gives the scale its name. So I'm working out of the B minor scale right now, and every one of these shapes is going to function as an extension of B minor. Right? So we're taking bridge, nut, nut, and I always go bottom to top. It doesn't really matter how you decide to do it, but that's how I usually think about it, is bottom to top. We're going bridge, nut, nut, and I'm moving it through each one of the forms. So form 1 over B, form 2, form 3, form 4, and finally form 5. And you can hear how each one of those shapes, even though they're the same pattern and they're in different locations, it still implies B minor. You can also use wall method as a way to get some really neat pentatonic E lines that maybe you wouldn't have thought of otherwise. Basically, you just arpeggiate the shapes that you just came up with, and that's like the easiest, fastest way, right? So again, bridge, nut, nut, over B minor, and I'm going down this time. Form 1, Form 2, Form 3, Form 4, and Form 5. And you can see how that would give you some really interesting results to be able to just kind of string those kind of things together, right? So earlier I had said use at least 3 notes, and that's usually for if you're doing chords with the wall method. It'll just, give you a broader chord. You could do 2 notes. You could do like bridge nut, something like that every time. Whatever. That's just an interval to me that doesn't feel as in-depth as the chords do, the 3-note chords. But 2 notes is really good if you are going to, set up a longer line, right? And what I mean by that is that you could do small patterns of 2s and 3s, or 3s and 3s. You could use that pattern as Legos, basically, to be strung together and move through the pentatonic forms and through the changes to come up with really interesting melodic lines. And this is actually the exact method that I used to get the quiet section at the beginning of Sargatanas Before the Fall off of my solo album, Journey to the Center of the Ear. And that sounds a little bit like this. Okay, so let's take a look at how this riff fits into wall method. Firstly, I'm in D minor now, and for me that's the 10th fret. For some of you it might be different. And the first pattern that I'm doing is a bridge note and then a nut note, and I'm doing 2 different patterns. The bridge note is going to be the 5th of the scale, and the nut note is going to be the root. And right now I'm in Form 1. So, the first pattern is literally just 2 notes, right? And then the second pattern is bridge, nut, nut. And that one is bottom to top kind of thing, just like in our chords, bridge, nut, nut. Right, so that's our patterns. And what I'm doing is pattern 1 twice, followed by pattern 2. Then I move up a string set, pattern 1 once, followed by pattern 2. And then up a string set, pattern 1 once, followed by pattern 2. Pattern 1, pattern 2, up a string set to pattern 1, pattern 2, up a string set to pattern 1, back to pattern 2. Then I do it again. Now I switch it up a little bit, just to provide flavor. And then I switch to Form 4 in the same location. And this will imply the 4 chord. We're in D minor, and the 4 chord of D minor is G minor, so now this implies a G minor sound. And I do the exact same thing. Pattern 1 twice, and then pattern 2, pattern 1 once again, pattern 2, pattern 1 once again, and pattern 2. And notice that I am adjusting my patterns to fit the pentatonic scales. Before, where I would do right on quadrant 3, I'm now going up a note because that's the note that changes from Form 1 to Form 4. Finally, we return to Form 1, but we're going to alter it a little bit by taking the root note and dropping it down a half step. And what this does is it gives you kind of like a alter dominant tonality. In this case, it'll outline an A7 chord or like an A Jimi Hendrix chord. And the scale itself, when you do that, sounds like this. And you can hear how this note wants to resolve back to the 1. Then we're going to take the exact same pattern, pattern 1 twice, up to pattern 2, then up a string set, pattern 1 once, pattern 2, then up a string set, pattern 1 once, pattern 2, and we're going to apply that there. So that's how I came up with this particular part of Sargatanas Before the Fall. So as a composition tool, I really like Wall Method, and I use it a lot in my stuff. It gives me really interesting sounding chords and lines, and it's a really neat way to see the scales and see your way through your scale forms, and it is good to improvise with. It pretty much is just another way to approach the pentatonics, right? The more tools in your box, the more creative you can be in mixing and matching those tools and applying them in cool and different ways, and this is just one more way. So take this, see what you can do with it, you know, give the exercises a shot, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Have fun, keep exploring.